G'day, Peter here from Comfort Zone Insulation. I hope you enjoy our next video about insulation, and just remember, if you need a quote, click on the links and we're happy to help you out. Okay, Peter here from Comfort Zone Insulation, the insulation team on Facebook. I've just come up into this job. Now, it's actually been insulated with cellulose fibre insulation already, and this is the cellulose. This cellulose is actually yellowish colour because it was obviously made from recycled phone books instead of newspaper. But it's still a good product. It just hasn't been installed well, and you can tell that right from the start because they didn't do the garage. And when the garage is part of the same roof cavity, it should be done, because all the heat that's trapped up here just goes down through the garage and then in through the living room wall, and then it's underneath the insulation. But this job wasn't done very well, and you can tell that. Just have a look. That's one of the downlight shrouds. You know, they should have cleared those wires out of the way of that, and then actually done it properly, instead of, like you can see, they've put a little bit of duct tape around that wire to hold it up, which is a bit dodgy. And you can see over here there's another shroud over in the corner there. But just generally, if you have a look around, you can see all the tops of the joists. Now, so just let's take an example. This is the top of a joist here. Now, if I put my finger in there, that's actually a 95, I think, let me just check, yeah, 95mm joist, right? So you want to see the insulation just proud of the joist, and not just under it. So they've pumped in about 20% less than what they should have put in, maybe, and that's up this end. But then if I look up there, it's probably more like 30 or 40% less than what they should have put in. Now we're going to flame test the product, make sure that this product's good. But in all the years I've been doing it, I've never failed one, because I've never found one where the product wasn't good. But this hasn't been. A lot of people would say, oh, this is settled, but I'll prove to you why it hasn't settled. Now, if you have a look here, there's one little bit of fluff here that's up over the joist, right? If this had settled, right, and this here had settled down that much, or this here had settled down that much, right, or for example, this had settled down, right, like here, it looks like it could have settled here, right? But if you go along here, there's fluff on top of the joist, and if this had settled, this would have broken away from there and it'd be down like that, right? It hasn't settled. What's happened is just the installer, you know, just didn't put in enough, is the answer to that question. I mean, he might have been a subcontractor, or it was just, you know, a company paid him to do the job and put the tender out to the lowest bidder, right? And you know, like, that's just such an ugly way to do a downlight shroud. It's probably not illegal, it's probably not non-compliant, there's a 50mm gap around it, you know, but and there's certainly no fire risk with that one there, but it's just ugly. It's just not the way the professional would do it. And if I come through here, like all of these bits here that are down, that's all just stealing money from the customer, stealing you know, stealing extra profits for his company when he did it, because he pumps in 20 or 30% or 40% less product in this case, and then he can either do the job cheaper to win the job, or that, and mostly customers never know. Now, this customer did. Now, actually, this is a good example up in here. So this insulation has probably been here for a long time, but that's a roof leak, you know. The cellulose fibre had a roof leak there. It looks like they've had a new roof put on since this was done, because I can't see any evidence of a leak up above that, right, directly above that. So it might be that this was when the old roof was on here, but you can see the water obviously just soaked into there, and then like it's actually just crusted a bit because it's like, you know, paper mache there, but it's all dried out 100% through. And if I pull this back, look at that, there's a stain on the top, but there's no stain on the ceiling at all, right? Now if that much water had poured into a normal bat job, it would go straight through the bats, it would be sitting on the ceiling, there'd be a stain on the ceiling, and you'd get a stain inside. So for a small leak, cellulose fibre will absorb the water, sit on the ceiling. It's fully hygroscopic, right? Not hydrophobic, and so it absorbs the water, and then as the surface dries, it dries right through the product and dries out. So the surface dries and it wicks the water back off the ceiling. And because of the borax in the product, there's no chance of mould. Whereas if that was bats, you would have had water sitting on the ceiling underneath the bats, and the water would have stayed there because it can't dry out, because bats are hydrophobic, and so when the surface is hot, it's not getting the heat through the bat to the bottom, so the water doesn't evaporate, right? Whereas this, it wicks the water up to the top. As the surface dries out, it wicks it all the way through. So this would have dried out within a couple of days, right? At absolute most, for a leak about that big. But it looks like it was from some kind of previous roof or that. But if I keep moving through the roof, right? Because this customer actually rang me because I was saying, oh look, it doesn't really work, and I can see why it doesn't work, because they don't have enough in here. They've probably got an R2 or less, and they've got big gaps. Like over here, they've had this skylight. There was a skylight in the roof. They've pulled the skylight out. They put a new ceiling back in, right? But as you can see, it's piled up around the edges here, right? The plasterer or whoever was doing the job just shoveled the insulation aside, right? And then put their plaster in and did the job. So like, it's obviously not that hard to do that, because you can see it's piled up down there and piled up around there. These leaves here are just from a junction in the roof here, where there's obviously some leaves in the valley there that are overflowing into the roof. So yeah, but anyway, we'll look through here. And now one problem that I do have in roofs like this, you imagine trying to get bats through in this tight little bit over here, you know, to get packs over into here. You know, this is where, you know, that company would probably miss all of that. It's a long way away from the manhole, and rather than climb in there and slide packs in there, there's about 3 packs you'd need in there, or depending on the brand, maybe 2. And it's a lot of work getting them in there. With the cellulose fibre, we just, you know, it's still hard work, but we run a hose up in there and do the job. Now I've got to go through and fix all these shrouds for the downlights, and so I'll fix them up, and then we'll top all of this up and re-insulate it, as it were, and then it'll be a good job after that. I don't know whose business card this is, but sometimes, you know, contractors leave their business cards up in the roof. Compass, what does he say? Compass, building inspections, is it? Yeah, but anyway, so he inspected it, but he obviously didn't tell the buyer that, hey, the insulation wasn't installed properly. And that's just because building inspectors don't know much about insulation sometimes. Anyway, alright, so that's me all done. I'll climb back out of here. We've finished our inspection of this, but overall, like, the product's in an excellent condition. It's just a couple of the downlights all need to be fixed, just so then they're up to standard and look nice. But mainly the job, if you look down there, when we're finished, you won't be able to see the tops of all of those joists like that. The insulation will be proud of that. So, and that's where you really want it, to get a good R value. All right. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Peter here. We've just finished this cellulose fibre inspection and top up. They needed the garage done, so you can see You can see there the garage is all nicely done, and around the manhole we've got actually white polyester bats around the manhole. Probably hard to see in that picture there, but we've put their carpet up on top of them. So that's what it looks like normally, where you can just kind of see the tops of the joists, right? But it should be just a bit proud of these joists, which it is there, right? Now this is one of the downlights here that used to have the blue foil around them. The blue foil is not the best product conductivity wise. This is actually an all plastic product and non-conductive, so it's a lot better for electrical, and it stands up and looks a lot neater. So we've gapped around those downlights with that, and topped up the rest of the job. Now if you remember before, over in there was all low, and you could see the tops of the joists everywhere, right? Now it's well and truly over the tops of the joists. I've probably actually put in all reality there's probably, hang on, let me just see how deep this is. So you can actually just dig into here and you can see, there I've almost put 80 or 100 millimeters, so nearly an R3 over the top of what was there. So there should be nearly an R4, R5 there now. So it's a really good job for the customer. And if you want to walk up in the roof, it's easy. You just find these joists on the side. There's going to be a truss that runs across on the ceiling, and see that's where the timber is, where I walked through before. And so you just walk on the timber. Now if like I'll show you up here, if there's no timber exposed, right, you follow that along, you just give that a brush with your foot and you know it's there, and then you can stand on it easy. So walking through the roof with cellulose fibre, even if it's up over the joists, it's not really a big deal. Any electrician that says it is probably probably need a new electrician, I don't know. But anyway, so as you can see, it's all topped up now. And now they've actually got a good job, and that's actually another downlight there that's shrouded around it properly. And I'll just come down here and show you another thing. This is a gap behind the fridge, right? Often builders put a vent behind the fridge, right? And I've just put polyester bats around the edge of that and pumped around it, right? And so the vent's still open, and you can still it still vents the heat out of the back of the fridge. When we first got here, there was no gap there, so they'd actually filled it, all but a tiny little bit that I saw. So, and that's another shroud out there near the edge that I've gone in and done properly. And if we look around, hang on, wait a second, sorry about the camera motion here. We look around out the edges there, all through the job. So, and you can probably see all the way up in there, it's all cellulose, quite high all the way up in there. Now, that's the old skylight there. They pulled the skylight out of the ceiling but not out of the roof, and so that's just a tube letting lots of light in the middle of the roof. So anyway, and as you can see, it's all done. Now this was the bit that had the roof leak here before, right, that we showed you here, and like you can see, I've just topped over that. So it's no big deal, it just tops over. But importantly, the job that was here, there was no rats or mice, there was no cockroaches, spiders in the roof, no termites. If this had been a bat job that had been up here for as long as that cellulose job had been, the bats would have rats and mice and stink and just be generally disgusting. So even though the cellulose wasn't done right when it was first put in, it was still far better than a bat job that wasn't done right. Anyway, I'm going to crawl back through here on the footsteps in the snow, as it were, and then we'll get out of here and get on to the next one. So if that helps anybody, like, comment, subscribe, share. And this is another thing, is that on top of the manhole we put this polyester bat that goes in there when we shut it down, just to insulate the manhole. So everything like that needs to be done properly, and that's, you know, all part of doing the job really well. Okay, alright, so actually before I go, I might just try and do one take here. Oh no, yeah. Oh, that's probably all I can show you. I was going to show you the flame test on this product, but I've got to get out of the roof first. Also, watch the next video. G'day, Peter here from Comfort Zone Insulation, and I'm just demonstrating the difference between cellulose fibre insulation as opposed to polyester bats. Actually, the wind just picked up on me, but if you put a flame on cellulose fibre, it doesn't proceed from the flame, and it's only insulation on the market that doesn't. So if this is pumped into your roof and sitting beside your joist, it can actually protect your joist from the heat of the flame. And so that's one of the reasons why it's far more fire retardant. Now, if you imagine the difference, that's polyester bats. They're a fantastic insulation, great bat, but if you have that in your roof, it just melts away, exposes your joist to the flame, and then... G'day guys, Peter here from Comfort Zone Insulation. I just wanted to show you something. I mean, when we sell cellulose fibre insulation, it all comes in reusable bags, and we empty them out into the machine, pump it into your roof, and then bring the bags back and refill them every time. So might refill them 1,000 times, I don't know. But when you buy bats, they all come in plastic bags, and this is just, you know, our two trailers here. So this one here and that one over there, and we just fill those up with these plastic bags that are left over from bat jobs. So that's you know, a whole bag full of bags there, and I mean there's some other rubbish in there from sites and things. Fiberglass bats, they all come in those wrappers. You know, here's some old foil out of roofs. So that's you know, this is the earth wall ones. They're particularly hard plastic. So all of this ends up in landfill. Just bags full of bags, you know. And out of one job, this whole bag here full, you know, like a average size house, it'd have 2 of those bags full of plastic. So that's about, you know, it's probably about 2 or 3 weeks worth of rubbish from us in that trailer there, and but we don't do a lot of bat jobs. That's just a couple of bat jobs a week, you know. Anyway, all right. So so that's another reason why the cellulose fibre is a lot better product to use and a lot more environmentally friendly. Like there's just no rubbish left over, and you know, the product's guaranteed for life against fire and vermin, and it's pumped in so there's no gaps. It's a fantastic product, and it uses 1/20th of the energy to produce as what fiberglass does in the first place, and then there's no rubbish left over when you're done. So, and if you ever want to, you know, pull it out or whatever, we can vacuum it out in 20 years time. Like I've had jobs where, you know, 20 years later we can vacuum it out and pump it into another job. You know, it's just such a good product. Whereas all the fiberglass that you pull out after it's been in a roof for 20 years, there's no way in the world that's going back into another job. It's just rubbish. Alright, so I'll leave that with you. Food for thought.